Hey, my name is Brian Curtis, and I'm the founder of Decentralized Systems. And today I have Michael Griego. Is that how you pronounce your
Uh,
last name?
Griego, right? Think
Griego?
of San Diego with a GR, Griego.
Okay.
You never forget it.
All right. So tell me a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Yeah, I am in the sales business. I have a long-standing career in driving kind of high-tech sales. Started out with IBM back in the day, storage tech. Also had some time in the market research business with Gartner and DataQuest, and driving kind of sales and kind of services and consulting. And it gave me a breadth of background. Been VP of sales for private and public companies, local and global companies as well. So I had a long standing career. And then for the last 20 plus years, I've been working and driving MXL Partners consulting firm. What we do is I leverage all that experience in sales and effectiveness and management. And I work with all kinds of teams and companies all around the world, particularly focused last 8 years or so with private equity firms and portfolios of companies to help drive sales team effectiveness, leadership effectiveness for their sales teams. And been doing this for companies that range from like Cisco and Citrix all the way down to early stage companies and companies, particularly in the kind of 10 million going to 20, 20 going to 50, 50 going to 100 million, 100 going to half a billion above. So seen a lot of stuff. I build out playbooks for companies. I do training. I coach. I mentor and motivate teams to get out there and knock it down.
Awesome. So I have a question that just occurred to me. It seems like, I just as a startup, I get a lot of approached offers for new AI sales techniques.
Yeah.
You guys follow much of that?
Yeah, it's been interesting watching kind of the evolution of sales, and definitely there's a movement toward certainly optimizing or automating things that make sense. However, you will never really, for full kind of blown enterprise type sales, fully replace hard charging, wise thinking, strategic type of sales execs and or teams that are helping teams kind of grow and drive big dollars. Certainly, when it comes to um, inside sales teams or teams that are doing um, kind of automation of the cold call and the lead gen, all of that stuff can be automated, and there's some certainly AI that's being applied to a lot of management of accounts and driving accounts and even driving deeper into penetration of accounts. But you're never going to have salespeople go away completely. You're going to still need high caliber people driving that stuff and leveraging that insights and information that you can get from some of these tools.
Right. Yeah. I mean, obviously, you're never going to get rid of somebody who's talented at cold calling. You need somebody that can, talk to somebody on a one-on-one level. But I see a lot of AI that is um, doing like performance modeling or kind of model people's like posts and then try and figure out what people are into and target those
Yeah.
people that are, going after certain types of interests. So that's interesting. I have no idea how that works, but I'm sure.
Well, I mean, it's just like, think of the application for advertising and how, because of people's where they search, where they go, what they buy, you can actually pinpoint needs and propensities for things, and therefore they're going to put ads in front of them. So the AI stuff is pretty sophisticated and pretty cool and accurate. You could do the same thing with understanding how companies and in terms of what they have and installed, what they have leaned toward, and you can start to drive certain understanding of their leanings and what they might be interested in terms of offers. So it's tremendous area for growth in the sales kind of enterprise sales ranks. Um, but it's almost like if you think of sports teams and you know football franchises or baseball teams and Moneyball analytics and all that, you still gotta hit the ball. You still gotta field the ball. You still gotta run plays and execute offenses and defense. You still gotta read schemes and stuff. So fundamentals never go away, but how you use technology to kind of help uh, train and advance and drive strategies is stuff that is the kind of fun stuff that's helping people take things to new levels.
Sure. Yeah, so I'll ask you this question. Have you seen a lot of different changes in sales in the last 2 months? I've been talking to other business coaches who say that, unless, especially some of the larger companies are pulling in assets, because we're going through, it could be a high inflation event, in the next, who knows, we don't know where inflation is going to go in the next 3 or 4 months. So traditionally people will pull in assets to carry high cash flow through an inflation event. Are they pushing for increased sales for that reason, or is sales changing in any way that you noticed?
Well, I mean, there's always, having lived through
Fluctuations.
different times of growth and non-growth and times of problems in the marketplace. Certainly, everyone's anticipating some pullback or decline in the marketplace, and so people are making some corrections either by um, looking at their staffs and things like that, or maybe controlling the cost and purchases of stuff. So that's always going on during kind of tougher economic times. Um, Nevertheless, stuff is still being bought. I think there's still a lot of growth. There's all kinds of things. I think when you look at things like the election, stuff like that, in the market was already reflecting a lot of stuff that's anticipated in terms of inflationary impact. That for the most part, I think companies are minding their business, making sure they need what they need, but there's so much good stuff, good technologies, and good efficiencies that are available for people that you just make wise strategic decisions. So people who are providing solutions that are going to drive cost efficiencies and operational, excellence that's going to save money over time. Those are still good buys. But you need people to articulate that and kind of help paint that vision of what they could do, and then be creative in how they package stuff.
Yeah, so I mean, you think people are laying off salespeople and predicting, say, well, we might not get as many sales through a high inflation time, or do you think they're just kind of keeping at least sales personnel solid?
Well, the problem with sales, if you're not producing, you're always going to be on the potential chopping block.
Right.
So what happens is people might be trimming their, the lower end of production, um, and but there's still people hiring, but you want to hire good caliber people and maybe reorganizing how you're going after things. But I'm not seeing any kind of massive wholesale uh, reactions to other than people kind of really thinking strategically through their business and their growth and minding the costs and hiring and expanding wisely. Um, I think everyone anticipates, for the most part, it's a big world economy that no matter what happens, if it's a short term period or even a long term period of inflationary pressures and pressures on the business, there will be a coming out of it, and it will just continue to grow, and people want to be ready for it. There's too much new technologies and things that are coming that are going to change how people do things out there.
So no drastic changes right now. It's just,
I mean, we'll look back over time. We'll see that this will be one of those dip areas. It's the dip that many were anticipating happening a long time ago, and it was kicked down the road. So there'll be some corrections in the market, and then we'll get right back to it.
right.
In the meantime, as I say, shut up and go sell something, right?
Right. Yeah. And I always thought, whenever you see something like this, it's usually gives an opportunity for some kind of advance, right? You're going to see opportunity for some new tech to come out to, take advantage of slow places in the marketplace. So,
Mhm.
yeah. So why did you get into sales? Did you really enjoy sales? Did you study that in college or?
Are you kidding? No, I had couldn't spell sales when I was a kid. No, I grew up, in L.A. My parents were very blue collar. My dad worked in a produce department at a grocery store. My mom painted dishes in a factory. I didn't know anything, but they moved us up to just a middle class area when I was a little kid, and we're all the seems like a lot of the parents worked for Jet Propulsion Laboratory, right, down there in L.A. And they were engineers and all that, and my dad was a produce clerk, and I was like, okay, I couldn't relate, but there was a high track of high performing types of families and that, and I was always a smart kid, I was a good athlete, and a good student, and I just got kind of move down the flow with people that were on a high path to go to college. I had no clue about college, and I just remember by the time I had some good teachers guiding me, and next thing I knew, hey mom, sign this, sign this, sign this. Hey, I got scholarships. Hey, I'm going to Occidental College, which is 20 minutes down the road, and nice private school, and so I had the quintessential 4 years of great experience. Um, but I worked as a bag boy in the summer times at my grocery store my dad worked in. So I had no business context until my sophomore year. I got my first introduction to sales with a company out of Nashville, Tennessee that had hired dumb, naive college kids to go sell books door to door.
Right.
And they hire about 6,000 every summer. And this other buddy and I in a dorm signed up for this program. My parents thought it was nuts. Um, that you didn't know it was all commission, but this company hires these kids, you train them for a week in Nashville, and then you send them out. And Southern California kids were assigned to that first summer eastern or western Pennsylvania, little rural towns. I learned because they taught you knock on Mrs. Jones' door 60 times a day to get 30 little door demos, no more than 20 minutes in a house, to sell one or two a day. If you did that, you'd make a couple of grand
Sure.
a year. I was making 300 as a box boy, bag boy in the store. I did that for 3 summers. And my last summer, I mean, I did average first summer, second summer, made $6,500. The third summer, I made 10,000.
Wow. Did you like it?
I had a love-hate relationship with it. It was something I started doing. I recruited kids. I would recruit kids from UCLA, USC, other Oxy kids. I had a 17-man team my senior year while I was a senior in college. We were number 9 in the country as a team in production, and
Wow.
I was the organizational leader for Southern California teams. So I was like, I just thought it was a dumb job, but I'm doing it, and I'm killing it, and it's killing me, but I'm learning a lot. So that experience helped me get into Stanford Business School. So I married my wife. I stayed around another year, married my wife, who graduated a year behind me, and we go up to Stanford, and now I'm in this highfalutin Stanford Business School, and I'm on a path that just I had an opportunity to work for IBM, and I realized you could do sales in an air conditioned office. I'm like, wow, this is crazy. So I was always, and I thought, are you kidding me? Because I was so disciplined and had such mental toughness doing this job for 3 years and motivating that the first 2 years at IBM, I hit my numbers in July and August, which is just unheard of. Mostly you make it the last week of the year, maybe. So I was just killing it. And I don't even like technology. I was an English literature major,
Right.
but I had to learn technology, and I learned it, and so I launched me into a career of professional sales, and I never looked back. But I became a student of it because over time I started saying I got to understand this stuff. So I went back and read the books, and now I got a couple books. I just published this other one here.
Oh,
Uh,
nice.
no excuses, a better way to sell. And my first one was 42 rules to increase sales effectiveness. Um, and by the way, the no excuses thing, I'll just say that comes from a manager I had at that Southwestern company who used to
Okay.
tell 6,000 dumb, naive kids. They said, there's two types of people in the world. There's those that make excuses and those that find a way.
Right.
And he says, and I remember elbowing my buddy saying, you know what? I'm not going to make an excuse. We're going to figure out a way to do this. And I figured from that point on, I just had this thing like no excuses, just go out and do it. And so everywhere I've been, it's you work through the problems and issues, and there's always a way to work things through. And that's what I've done. And now I help companies do that with their teams.
Awesome. So how would you characterize yourself being able to, run that many people, be that successful? Are you kind of like the rah guy, or are you just a good organizer and just making sure that everybody kind of met their quotas, or what?
Well, I learned to get your head right and to bet, you gotta think, you gotta have your goals, you gotta go out and execute it and all that.
Mm.
I've always been, I think I have a natural proclivity toward teaching. I'm a coach. I also, I love coaching and teaching people. And if you had asked me what I really wanted to do in high school, I would have told you that I probably would have be cool to teach high school history or high school English, and then coach the baseball team or the football team, be an assistant coach, something like that. And over time, my wife finally told me this years ago. She goes, Mike, you're doing what you always wanted to do. I said, what do you mean? She goes,
You're teaching.
you're a coach and you're a teacher. And in a sense, I've always been a like I have a football coach mentality, but kind of a Moneyball mentality also of how to run a team, but also how to motivate and drive people, but then think strategically. At the same time, I'm a student of history, and I love history and in articulating visions and things to people and help them kind of understand what we learned from the past and make adjustments.
Right.
So I think I bring that kind of motivation, at the same time strategic thinking. And then in sales, if you really, and this is what's been a really interesting thing for me since being with IBM back in the day when like the PC came out and I was selling the mid-range systems, and there was all this confluence of technology even then. I've been able to watch the evolution of sales methodologies from the strategic selling, the spin selling, the solution, the sandlers, the challenger, all these different kinds of things, which are variations of a theme that I've been able to kind of absorb and understand how companies have those and how they move forward. And it really is about today, not an off the shelf stuff, but a customization of your best practices of how your customers buy and map it in a sales engagement process to that. So it's been a fascinating evolution. You got to be a student of the history. You got to understand what's going on, adjust like a good coach does, and then be able to articulate and drive the team to be motivated and follow you. And
Right.
that's the type of thing I'm helping new generations of sales leaders and execs put in the right kind of processes and those strategies to do that, because it's very doable. It's a teachable skill.
So would you say, studying the history quite a bit enables you to predict where it's going a little easier?
Um, Somewhat. It's been interesting when you look at like in the sales world. I was VP of sales when Salesforce.com went in the cloud, and everyone was afraid to put their data up in the cloud, and it's
Right.
like they had to just basic versions of it before. But and then I saw people think, well, okay, now that we've automated with Salesforce.com or any of your, pick your favorite CRM, they think, okay, I got sales, that they're good. I got that because we got that automation tool in there. And it's like, no, are you kidding? What we've seen is an anticipation that automation is the answer, but it's not the answer.
Sure.
It's just a tool, and often these CRMs are just glorified contact management systems. Or they're overdone, over engineered. You turn them in, connect them to ERP systems and all that. There's beauty in a good automation of the right types of processes that are drilled down in an organization in a good, healthy way and then executed. There's beauty in that. However, it's not the answer. As I said, you got to have the human element to it. You got to have rational process of how you drive people to use these tools going forward. So I think, as you mentioned in your earlier question about AI, clearly there'll be more AI over time in bringing that type of intelligence and insights to help people engage better or drive to better alignment of solutions with what people need out there. So there will be that, but that's not the end all. You're still going to need to connect the dots. You're still going to need good product, good teams to articulate, good packaging, pricing to get things done, and then implementation strategies to really make it work and hum within an organization going forward to renewal that business and get it going. So it's the same recurring patterns. It just things get tighter, better, more refined over time is what's happening.
Yeah, AI is kind of assisting maybe the client provider relationship, right? It's whatever. It's just moving forward, and it's very interesting, right? Because I've noticed AI is being applied to just about everything now. It seems like,
Sure.
Especially when your phone, I watched, I can't remember the name of the Netflix show that it kind of covers it, but maybe it was on Netflix. I can't remember. But how, they have backside AI that's just measuring every little click that everyone does on their phone to kind of present what people think they want to see on their phone, because it's all sales, right? It's all sales generated. The more time you can spend on an app, the more that that app sells. So it is interesting to me. But I think you're right. I don't think you can get away from the human element at all. Especially when you're selling a valuable product, you need somebody to talk to. Nobody wants to talk to a computer. It's just, I don't know.
Yeah. No, so that, I've seen people think that they're going to replace their whole inside sales teams with just automation. And it's like, nah, no, you're not. You're going to refine and reconfigure your team, but you're going to, and use that technology in a way that makes sense, but it's not going to fix all your sales problems.
Right. So do you have any really good stories in sales, and maybe like a really good success story where you sold, just the book story is pretty good. I like that one. Were you selling a specific just books made by a manufacturer and then
Well, no, it was, this company had started 100 years ago, or 100 years before then. They're selling Bibles to the Civil War soldiers,
oh,
to the Southern soldiers, and it was based in Nashville. And what they've evolved over that time was to sell kind of secular children's books, but they still sold like family Bibles and things like that back in the day when people had those things, Bible dictionaries, things like that. Out in the West Coast, they sold these big $100, now they're like multi-$100. One book encyclopedias for children's, for that people buy for the high school kids and things like that. But for the group that we were selling, they would take the West Coast kids, put you east of the Mississippi. So they drop us out there, and what we were selling, our division that we sold, and it doesn't exist today, where we were selling Bible books.
okay.
We were, and you didn't have to be, a Christian or anything to sell this stuff, but I was a believer, and so it didn't hurt. But it was all about just knocking on Mrs. Jordan's, and everybody went to church. Everybody had family Bibles. Everyone wanted upgrades and new ones. It was like, okay, next thing you know, you're selling tons of this stuff.
Hmm. Interesting. So yeah, I mean, that's a great story. So sales ended up getting you into what you wanted to do anyway, right? You just wanted to coach and teach teams, right?
Yeah, yeah, and you kind of learn, just like a lot of things. You learn how to be more advanced. And I'm looking at a lot of first time sales directors today and coaching them, or first time VPs of sales. I work with them and help them. I've got like this 10 module little thing I can take them through. In fact, that'll be my next book. This is No Excuses, Better Way to Sell. The next one is going to be No Excuses, A Better Way to Lead. And it'll be the management counterpart. So along the way, you kind of learn how to lead people and coach. But most people were like myself. You're making it up as you go, and you try to teach people to do what you do. And what I've learned is that actually great sales leaders kind of instill a good process and then coach to that process. So you got to kind of have a way that you want to go and do some of the right things, how you structure territories, account priorities, and even how you measure and manage a team in terms of activities and what you want them to do and your targets, as opposed to just go get them, guys. Yeah. And there's a lot of coaching and management going on out there, even at executive levels, where people just need a little bit of refinement and structure to help them do better.
Do you think there's some good structure out there when you're coaching teams that you can kind of apply to just about everybody, or do you think there's certain personality types that just deal well with other types of coaching or structure? I mean,
Well,
go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, there's always going to be personalities, and I've learned to I liken good leadership of companies, as well as coaching of sales and driving of sales organizations, to good parenting. Uh, you have kids, right, Brian?
Yeah, I have kids.
How many kids you got?
Well, I have three, and they're all very different. And parenting is a learning process, I think, just as much for your parents as it is for kids, right? Because every kid is different, and they learn a different way.
Yeah.
And so, and that's why I kind of asked the question, because One of my passions is, if I had to do it over again, I love psychology, but I like kids right at the 4 and 5 year old age, right when they first start to want to learn, and I love seeing them get interested in all kinds of different things because they'll bounce around, right, and they just kind of want to learn everything, and I think a growing mind is a super interesting thing to be involved with.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it applies to good leadership and management in that what you have is in any kind of family with kids or any type of sales organization or employee set, you've got all kinds of different personalities and types.
Yeah,
And what I've learned, particularly with sales organization, it's not like you want just the rah rah rah, go get them hard charger type. You love that. But there's been research done that shows there are different types of characteristics of salespeople, and some are very understated. Some are very hard charging. Some are very kind of personality, good relationship builders.
right.
Um, the, the thing I've learned is that whatever personalities and types you have, you want them to. You don't want to change personalities, but it's just like with parenting. Parenting, you've got to establish some values and kind of lay out the ground rules and the bumper rails, as I call them.
Sure.
And you want to give kids room to kind of flex within those family rules. Um, if the rules are too tight, then the kids can't wait to get out of the house and
Right.
if the rules are too loose and loosey goosey, then there's no standards. Everyone's are all over the place. You got problems. It's the same
Hmm.
with a sales team or a company. You've got to set some standards as to what our expectations are from leadership. But you got to understand, if you make your sales team operate too tightly within some bounds that are too restricted, you got to do this, and you crack back on them. They're going to resist it. You're going to have some problems, and it also just hinders the natural blossoming of people,
The
which
learning process.
here,
Yeah.
yeah. So if you flex it a little bit, but still have some standards, you get people of different styles that can grow. Now, the thing is, like in the sales world, what you really want to develop is somebody that has kind of flexible articulation of, and development of all kinds of characteristics, where they are not only they know how to drive and do the right kinds of activities, they know how to communicate and facilitate well. They know how to build good relationships. They know how to be introspective and listen carefully and support organizations. And they know how to care for people and have good people caring skills. That's the full package. And
Right.
often, what you get with people is they have one of those which is really stronger than others. And what I've seen, just like developing kids, is you want to round them out, develop and
All
groom
parts.
the full package. And the same thing I've seen with salespeople. There's nothing greater than seeing a person who might be really a little rough and roughshod out there as well as internally, but to smooth them out and take that energy, kind of make them into full blown people that care for people, do the right things, but they're still hard charging people that are really productive. Um, and so that's how you kind of I could take any kind of personality team and mold them into an image of people that are just high producers is what you really want.
Right. And I suppose it's really gratifying to see relationships grow because the longer people are, the more people you're meeting, the more people are selling to. I know a couple of salesmen, and they're really down to earth people. They just meet a lot of people every day, right? I mean, so they're creating relationships with a lot of different personality types, and so you have to understand a lot of different people. And yeah, I can see how that would be a gratifying job, especially running a group of salesmen. That would.
Well, the other thing that I think it's something that, I've learned that, and particularly being in the Silicon Valley and kind of growing up around a lot of high tech people in my early part of my sales career, and then working with venture capitalist types or people who are high or CEOs or executives who are very technical in their upbringing. And in my early days of MXL Partners, I would work with companies, and these people were looking for an easy answer to sales, and because they thought sales was a box or a mystery, and they thought teach our guys how to close or do teach them tricks and gambits and things. And and what it really is I realized, it's actually not about twisting arms or doing tricks and gambits and being clever. It's actually, sales is a process, but it's a process by which you're communicating ideas and asking questions and probing. So ultimately, great salespeople are those that can engage well with anybody by asking questions and probing into things, and then listening well and uncovering things. And in a sense, your best salespeople often are the technical founders of these companies who
Right.
can't spell sales. But what happens is, because they know their product, they just engage at a business level and deal with business problems. And they know they got the goods, but they talk at that level. That actually isn't a teachable skill to help. And that's a big thing going on in sales today, is why I help companies and their teams articulate the business problems of customers and lead with that. And then your stuff comes along later. But by then the customer goes, hey, I think you can help us. Let's talk.
Right.
Versus the sales guys that are just in there pushing their products
Pushing the product.
and demos and all that, which the customer wants to see. So that's the rub. You got to balance it. You got to show them something, but you got to also ask questions. And, but it's not rocket science. It really isn't. And it's not a mystery.
Right. Just present the problem, understand the problem, and then show the
Talk about it, ask them questions, understand where they're coming from.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Right.
We'll turn you into a sales stuff.
Sales expert. I know I get coaching on sales all the time. It's like you really got to get into the problem and tell them, give them the solution after you've understood where they're coming from, right? Yeah. Well, thanks for joining me today, Michael. I don't want to take any more of your time. I know you probably have another appointment here pretty soon. So
great chatting with you, Brian.
Yeah, it was a pleasure meeting you, and I'll keep in touch.
Okay, thanks.
All right, thanks.
All right.